I would try to explain something to you that's really not that simple, but I'm going to try to make it as clear as I possibly can. You can find more information about it on the OSR website and at the Graduate and Postdoctoral Studies website. So let me begin by saying that we all should be very grateful to the federal government because they provided us with close to $750 million to help repair some of the damage that was done by a ramp down, ramp up period related to COVID. But it's not simple how this 750 million works. Approximately 300 million of it is for the mitigation of Tri-Council funding. So I'm going to say it again. I'm going to use the word mitigation for that money. The mitigation of Tri-Council funding. So to fill the holes of personnel, students paid on fellowships, their own fellowships, students paid on stipends from research grants, salaried employees of any variety, technicians up to research associates, postdocs, unionized, non-unionized. It's to maintain the personnel as much as we can as a national treasure. That's for Tri-Council grants. And the way it works is this. You get contacted by the Tri-Council, or OSR, the Office of Sponsored Research, gets contacted. McGill doesn't have any responsibility of deciding how much money and to which grants. To make it more complicated, SSHRC is doing this a little differently than NSERC, who's doing it a little differently than CIHR. So we try to keep you up to date. The information about it keeps changing daily as we get more and more information. So you need to keep looking at your council's websites and looking at the OSR, Office for Sponsored Research website, because it's going to change a little bit each day. When will you get this money? When will somebody contact you either from the council or from the OSR? We're not sure. At a national level, this involves looking into many different files. They're doing it progressively. So your lab partner, your colleague down the hall in his lab may have already gotten money and you haven't. That's just because they haven't gotten to you yet. We also don't know exactly when it's going to come. I can't tell you you're going to have this money on August 1st. All we know is that NSERC is saying right now, we are hoping to get all the money out the door by September 30th. So realize that all we can tell you now is hopefully sometime before September 30th. And this is for Tri-Council money. It's for people only. The agencies, the councils themselves will decide how much and be in contact with either you or the university central office, who will then be in contact with you. And you'll see some piece of money go into your account. It is to cover basically whatever salary the councils feel you were using for the people that they understood you were using it for. So that's what I can tell you about what I call Tri-Council mitigation money. Then into our midst came $450 million, and this works quite differently. Okay, this has got an acronym that makes me crazy. It is CRCEF. So we all know our federal government is in love with C's and R's and E's and F's, and so we've got a new version of those letters combined here. But this money is different. This is for funding from non-governmental sources. So not cities' money that you might have in a contract, not provincial government, not federal science department. This is for money that comes to you from industry or through charity and charitable foundations. How does the government decide how much money a place like McGill would get? And we get it in one block allocation. We have to take a piece of that allocation and, according to a certain formula, assign it to the research institutes of our affiliated hospitals. They then decide how much goes to each researcher according to another formula. and we decide how much goes to McGill researchers according to that same formula. Well, how did they decide how much money to send us? There is something called Crago data, and we submit McGill data to Crago every year through financial services, and it's labeled in different ways: charity, industry, tri-council. So let's just think about this tri-council and provincial. And let's just think about the money that is not governmental, just industry and charitable foundations. And the formula by which it's allocated is a little different than the other money I described to you. It is allocated to line up with the CEWS, which is a wage subsidy program, 75% of wages. So any given person it will go to, whether stipend or salary, you will get 75% of what you paid them. Furthermore, it is capped at $847 a week. Let's suppose you have a wonderful research associate that you pay $90,000 to. Well, you will not be allocated money prorated to an annual salary of $90,000. Capped at $847 a week, that would mean an annual salary of $40,000 to $50,000. So you'll be disappointed. You'll be frustrated. You paid out much more money than you're going to get put back into your accounts. So it's difficult. You should lower your expectations of how much this is going to be and really think of it as not filling the full hole that has been carved out by this COVID time. Now, how is this going to work in the university? Well, we went to financial services and have worked very, very closely with them to identify who was paid what amount of salary money out of accounts associated with industry and charity. We then conveyed this information in a spreadsheet to the financial officers of your faculty. You will be contacted by one of those people to see if the number that the central sources came up with corresponds to what you understood you were paying to different people. And you may have to do some explaining, because I know how it works. We do change the payment to personnel from one account to another sometimes to cover periods or gaps between when we receive funding and when other funding is coming in. So we know that. We know there's play in the system, that a person is not always paid just from one account. And some of those accounts may be tri-council, some may be industry, some may be charity, some may be provincial government. So we need your interpretation. So it's top down. Financial services has let us know what's gone into account, out of accounts for salaries. You've got to come in to explain complexities in that. So you will be asked to give information to your financial officer. You will be contacted by your financial officer. It does not start with you filling out an application. It starts with you being contacted and then you providing money. To get prepared for when you're contacted, you could start to look yourself. When did I pay whom and from what account? So that you're ready when the financial officer comes. Why do we need to be ready? Because this is hugely time constrained. We've been given very little time to figure out how this is going to work and how we're going to do the allocations. And it's complicated because it involves us, and we're responsible for the money to the hospital research institutes as well. So this will go rapido, so I suggest you begin by doing your own calculations so you can have a conversation with your financial officer and be ready for that. Now, I want to say one last word, and this covers only a period between March 15th and June 10th, I believe it is. So it's a limited period of time. 10th of July, 15th of March to 10th of July, it's 12 weeks. So it's a limited period, it's limited money, particularly for this CRCEF part. 75%, capped at $847, but it goes to students, pays for stipends, pays for all other personnel. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing that the government gave us this money because it is helping to make us whole again, but it's not going to be completely whole. And that's just frustrating all around for all of us. So I I want to warn you about that. I also want to warn you that any of your students who decided to enroll in the SERB program or the other programs for students will not qualify for this because it would be a form of double dipping. So some of them did that. Some of them are more or less willing to admit they did that. You've got to watch for that, and your expectations may be lowered again when you realize they were covered in a different way, so not covered by this program. So I urge you to look at websites, look at them routinely. I'll give you one example. We know all the programs now covered by NSERC. We do not have an equivalent list from CIHR as of a day ago. It may arrive today. So we can't tell you if foundations are covered, foundation grants are covered, or only project grants, or other kinds of strategic grants from CIHR. So you have to keep up to date on the websites. But again, you'll be contacted. You just sit there right now, and somebody will contact you. For the Tri-Council money, it'll be the council or OSR. For this other money, it will be a financial officer of your faculty. But get ready for the conversation for the financial officer. Thank you, and I'm sympathetic, and at the same time, I'm very grateful to the government that they went this far to helping out at this time. And again, they did this because they want to keep the strength of our research personnel in place as much as possible. So I hope this helps. Use any other source of information you can find. Thanks.